Hey friends, I'm Wanda. I'm 28 years old, and if you're new here, I love playing Minecraft to relax and reading some of the most interesting stories from Reddit. So here's a little update. My first video didn't really get any views. Honestly, I thought it would get so many, but I guess I still don't understand how YouTube works. Still, my husband kept telling me to post more stories, and so did my kids and my whole family. They all believe in me, so I guess today we'll find out if they're right. So grab a comfy spot and let's jump into today's story. Story 1. My family doesn't age like other people. My grandmother was 98 when she passed, but she looked 65, maybe younger. My great-uncle is 102 and still chops his own firewood. We've always credited it to good genes. And our one sacred tradition, the renewal stew, served at every major family gathering. It was a rich, dark, savory stew that made you feel warm from the inside out, full of life. When Grandma Rose died, I was the one who inherited the old family farmhouse. Tucked away in her study, I finally found it. The original, handwritten recipe book, bound in cracked leather. I felt a thrill, like I was finally being let in on the secret. I opened it to the page for the renewal stew. It was mostly blank. There were no ingredients listed for the stew itself, only 2 cryptic notes in my great-great-grandmother's spidery script. For the broth, see the cellar instructions. For the seasoning, see the attic instructions. The cellar was damp and smelled of earth. Behind a stack of old canning jars, I found a loose stone in the wall. Pulling it free revealed a dark, hidden chamber. Inside, arranged in neat rows, were a dozen large, unglazed clay pots filled with a dark, peaty soil. A thick, pale, gnarled root snaked out of the soil in each pot, looking disturbingly like a human hand. A dusty journal sat on a small table. The entries, dating back to the 1800s, described the process. When a member of our family dies, they aren't buried or cremated. They are planted. Their bodies are prepared with a special mixture of herbs and laid to rest in these pots. Over the years, the soil and the body produce a life root. This root is harvested, boiled for 3 days, and becomes the broth for the renewal stew. I felt a wave of nausea. We weren't just eating stew. We were consuming the concentrated essence of our dead ancestors. Shaking, I went to the attic. In a locked trunk, I found a collection of small, ornate silver boxes, each engraved with the name of a living family member. I found my own, my name freshly engraved. Inside each box was a small, sharp, obsidian knife. Another journal explained the final step. The seasoning. It wasn't a spice. At each gathering, every family member present must make a living contribution to the stew. A few drops of blood, a sliver of fingernail, a tear cried directly into the pot. This offering of the living is what awakens the ancestral broth. I slammed the book shut, my hands trembling. It was a grotesque, cannibalistic ritual. I vowed I would never participate. The next major gathering was for the autumn equinox. I made an excuse not to go, claiming I had the flu. I felt a sense of righteous defiance. A week later, my mother called, her voice thin and weak. "Your Aunt Carol isn't doing well," she said. "She's had a sudden decline." I drove to my aunt's house. The woman who opened the door was a stranger. She looked 80 years old, her skin thin and translucent like parchment, her hair patchy and white. But it was Aunt Carol. She was only 58. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a desperate, hungry light. "You didn't come," she rasped, her hand gripping my arm with surprising strength. Her fingernails were cracked and yellow. "The stew, it wasn't strong enough. It's always weaker when someone is missing." I finally understood. We don't have good genes. We have a curse, a rapid, horrifying decay that is constantly trying to claim us. The stew isn't a fountain of youth. It's the only thing that holds the rot at bay. We aren't living long lives. We are desperately, grotesquely staving off an accelerated death. The winter solstice is next month. My mother called again yesterday. She told me my great uncle's hands are so stiff he can no longer hold an axe. She told me she found a new gray hair, and when she plucked it, a small patch of skin came with it. Then she asked if I would be coming home for the solstice. Her voice was casual, but the question hung in the air, heavy and raw. They need me. They need my contribution. I'm looking at the small silver box with my name on it. The little black knife sits inside, cold and sharp. I have a choice. I can go participate in this stomach-churning ritual and feed the curse to keep my family looking young and vibrant while I know the horrifying truth. Or I can stay here, clean and pure, and watch them all fall apart, knowing that the same rot is flowing through my own veins, waiting for its turn. All right, that was our first story. Pretty wild, right? Now let's jump into the next one and see what happens. Story 2. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I need to know if anyone has ever experienced anything like this. I live in a small farmhouse that I inherited from my grandmother 6 weeks ago when she passed away. It sits on a lot of a couple acres of land. When she passed away, I had just graduated from college. So instead of selling it, I decided I'd live in it and maintain it while I looked for a job in the area. The nearest town is around 30 minutes away from me, but I usually don't mind the seclusion. In fact, my closest neighbor is around 10 minutes away as the crow flies. The first day that I got here, I was over the moon about being the sole owner of my childhood home. The long dirt road to get you to the house was lined with dense forest. And once I finally reached the house, I realized that my grandmother had really let this place go. There were vines, practically holding the shutters closed like the house was holding in a secret. I knew I was going to have a lot of work to do, but since I had a bit of savings, I could focus on getting the house back in order. When I unlocked the front door and went inside, I was met with an overpowering smell of lavender. It seemed that even though my grandmother let the outside of the house go, the inside was pristine. I set my luggage down and went into her bedroom. I spent the next week cleaning up the outside of the house. I found all kinds of things in the overgrown grass, like an old farmer's hat, gardening scissors, and coloring books that had been scribbled in. I hadn't ever seen any of these items before, but chalked it up to belonging to my cousins when they were kids. The first week of living, there nothing else really went on. It's this week, the second week, that strange things started happening. After a long day of finishing the yard work, I came inside and kicked my boots off. I made sure to lock the front door and deadbolt it, since living alone in the middle of the woods as a woman can get kind of scary. I made my way to the bathroom when I heard footsteps behind me. I whipped my head around, but I didn't see anything. I thought it was just the old house settling, so I continued to the bathroom and got into the shower. Now, I don't know if it's my mind playing tricks on me, but every time I dunked my head under the shower head, I thought I heard giggling right behind me. Once again, nothing there. I got out of the shower, dried myself off, and slipped into my pajamas. That's when I noticed something written in the steam on the mirror. Hello. I was genuinely freaked out at this point, but knew that my younger family members had been here right after grandmother died. So I wrote it off that the writing was maybe lingering. That night, as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a loud knock at my door. I checked the time on my phone, 11:43 p.m. Like I said, my nearest neighbor is 10 minutes away, so I had no clue what someone was doing here late at night before my dad passed away. He instilled in me that the world is very dangerous. So the minute I turned 21, he paid for me to get a concealed carry license. I grabbed my pistol and tucked it into my waistband as I walked toward the front door. I could have just ignored it, but I didn't know if maybe it was the police or someone in trouble. I opened the door a bit and saw a rather small man. I'm 52, and he couldn't have been much taller than me, in a button-up polo with black slacks and those shiny shoes that the pastor always wore. Hello, he spoke up. I'm Mr. Pfister. I work for the night census. He had the biggest smile on his face, almost like he had won the lottery. The night census, I said suspiciously. I've never heard of that. Well, yes. We only knock on select doors. Think of it as a sort of government initiative for after-dark population tracking. He ran his fingers through his gelled back, almost slimy black hair. Who all is here? Has anyone been here since the last count? Mr. Pfister tried peeking around my shoulder, but I quickly shut him down. I'm sorry, sir. What do you mean since the last count? We come by a couple times a night to get the exact number of people living in the household. When I came by earlier, I spoke to your gardener, and he let me know that he lived here as well as his son. He pulled a clipboard out from behind his back, but he didn't inform me that anyone else lived here. I'll just write it down really quick. I watched as he wrote young female in her late 20s, presumably alone, under where he had already written gardener and his young son. There was obviously no one else here, so I was extremely startled. I don't have a gardener. I think you must have the wrong house. It's just me here. I didn't notice my slip-up until I said it. I mean, my husband should be back any minute now. He had to run into town to get something. I tried to cover it up by lying, but he saw right through it. His smile grew wider, and he turned his head to the ground, still staring at me through his eyebrows. "We know you're here alone, Natalie." He chuckled, but not in a friendly way. It sounded like a dry rattling coming from his throat. I slammed the door shut and locked it. I could still hear his laughter outside, which turned into a sea of screaming. I ran to the bedroom to call someone and had, of course, no signal. I couldn't get to my car without him seeing me, so I had no idea what to do. I barricaded myself in my room, but I accidentally drifted off to sleep. I woke up again to a knock at the door. I looked at my phone, 3:36 a.m. I don't know if this Mr. Vister guy is some kind of prankster or lunatic. I wasn't going to let him scare me. I opened up the door and didn't let him get a word in. "Stop fucking harassing me." I spat. "I have a gun. I don't know what you're trying to do, but you're trespassing. Go the fuck away." His smile softened into a look of confusion. "I'm sorry for disturbing you, ma'am, but I don't believe we've met." His lips curled into a smile again, and he held out his hand for me to shake. "I'm Mr. Vister. From the night census, we are." I cut him off. "Yeah, I know who you are. You were just here." "Oh no, you must be mistaken. Me and my twin brother take turns checking houses." I was obviously confused at this point, so he pulled out his clipboard. "So, you must be Natalie. I've got that you live in the bedroom towards the back of the house. Then the other occupants are the gardener, Silas, and his son, Thomas. I have here that they live in the bedroom that branches off of the family room. No, I don't know who Silas or Thomas are, but they definitely don't live here." "What?" "No, I see them right back there on the couch." He stood on his tiptoes and waved to something behind me. As I turned around to see what he was waving at, Mr. Vister ran past me while giggling. I had no clue who this guy was or why he wanted to be in my home, but I saw this as an opportunity to get out of there. I grabbed my keys from the bowl next to the door and ran to my car, leaving the front door wide open. I peeled out of there as quickly as possible to a small motel in town. That's where I am now. Do any of you know what's going on? Has anyone experienced anything like this? Any help would be appreciated. Please help me. And that's the end of today's stories. I'm still figuring out if I'm actually good at this whole storytelling thing, so your feedback means the world to me. Let me know in the comments. Should I keep going just like my husband, kids, and family keep telling me, or should I try something totally different? Either way, thanks for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.